In the Wudong Mountains, Professor Cheng Yiming uncovered a bamboo box hidden behind a false stone wall. Inside lay a manuscript that would upend everything he thought he knew about human life. Its pages held something more precious than gold: 12 secret breaths safeguarded by Taoist masters for 1,000 years. The title was unsettling: The Breaths of the Immortal Dragon, Forbidden to the Uninitiated. The opening lines warned, "Whoever knows these secrets commands their destiny, but whoever practices them without purity of heart will find their ruin within." Chen stayed silent for years, but at 73, when his health failed, he chose to apply the manuscript's methods. The results were astonishing. Doctors from Beijing came to examine a man once given up for dead, who now had the vigor of someone 3 decades younger. Now for the first time, these hidden teachings step into the light. 12 sacred breaths that can heal the body, quiet the mind, and extend life. Kept secret because they granted too much power to their holders. But remember the manuscript's words: breath is the bridge between the mortal body and the eternal spirit. Use it with reverence, and it will open the gates to immortality. The path into ancient wisdom begins now. Chapter 1. The Dragon's Breath. Like the stirring of a primordial dragon, so should be the first conscious breath. Years ago, when youth still clung to me and my beard had only begun to silver, a disciple arrived at my door, burdened by an illness the imperial physicians could not cure. His lungs hissed like splintered bamboo in the wind. The peach hue had drained from his skin, and his eyes no longer reflected heaven's spark. "Master," he rasped, "I have spent my entire fortune on remedies, yet my body fades like smoke." I answered with a phrase that unsettled him. "My son, you have forgotten how to breathe." Offended, the young man protested. "How could I forget something so simple? I have breathed since birth." Then I revealed the first great truth I learned from my teacher, passed down through an unbroken lineage reaching back to the legendary Yellow Emperor. This wisdom was first recorded in the Huangdi Neijing, the inner canon of the Yellow Emperor. But its secret practice was passed down only orally, among Taoist masters in the sacred caves of Kunlun. The ancients discovered a vast gap between the breath of an ordinary person and the breath of the dragon. The common man breathes merely to survive, like an animal that drinks water only when thirsty. But the sage breathes to nourish the ocean of qi flowing within the body. That invisible sea of vital energy links every organ, every cell, every thought to the universe's creative force. This method was known by imperial physicians as fetal breathing or embryonic respiration, for it mirrors how a baby breathes in the mother's womb, drawing life directly through the umbilical cord connected to the lower dantian. For 3 days, I taught the young man the most fundamental of all sacred breaths. I showed him how the air entering through the nose must descend like a golden waterfall into the lower palace, the sacred region 3 finger widths below the navel that the ancients named the dantian. But here lies the true secret few understand. Sending air to the belly is not enough. The dragon's breath requires envisioning a sphere of golden light expanding in the abdomen with each inhalation, as though gently inflating a celestial silk balloon. This sphere is not make-believe, but a visualization of qi gathering and strengthening. As the breath leaves, the sphere does not fade. On the contrary, its radiance intensifies and begins to radiate warmth to every corner of the body. This is the crucial distinction. While the ordinary man leaks vital energy with each exhale, the one who has mastered the dragon's breath multiplies it and sends it throughout. The technique is simple yet potent. Inhale deeply through the nose for 4 heartbeats, guiding the air to the lower dantian while visualizing the golden sphere expanding. Hold the breath for 2 beats, sensing the energy condense. Then exhale slowly through the mouth for 6 beats, picturing the golden light spreading from the center to arms, legs, heart, and mind. On the 7th day of practice, the ailing youth came running to my hermitage. His face glowed with the color of renewed life. His eyes shone like lakes beneath the full moon, and his breathing flowed quiet and deep like that of a sleeping child. "Master," he said in a voice clear as crystal, "now I understand why this is called the dragon's breath. I feel as if a powerful being has awakened within me." Smiling, I told him, "You have learned the first secret, but the dragon has many more ways to manifest. Each breath you master will draw you nearer to the immortality the ancients promised to those who can fully awaken their celestial nature. Decades have passed since then, yet I still remember the lines I wrote in my journal that night, the chi that moves through unseen channels. When we learn to steer our breathing with intent, we become the architects of our own vitality. Practice it now while my words still echo in the mind, and it will be clear why emperors sent spies to steal this knowledge from our sacred temples. Chapter 2. Breathing with Heaven and Earth. I recall vividly the morning when my teacher, the Venerable Sao, woke me. "Come with me to the summit," he said in that calm voice that never invited argument. We climbed for hours along barely visible paths, until reaching a headland from which both the cloud-lost mountains and the deep valleys dropping into the dark earth could be seen. There he taught the second secret now shared here, a technique so ancient it is mentioned in the Tao Te Ching of Laozi. The space between heaven and earth is like a bellows that never runs out. My teacher had learned this practice from the hermits of Huayan, who in turn received it from a tradition reaching back to the earliest sages who meditated in the sacred mountains. They discovered that the human body is not an isolated entity, but a living bridge between two fundamental cosmic forces. "Look up," he said, pointing to the sky gilded by dawn. The sky embodies pure yang, expansive, luminous, ascending energy. "Now look down," he continued, indicating the plunging valleys. "The earth embodies pure yin, receptive, nurturing, descending energy. The body is the sacred channel where these two forces meet and dance together." He then taught that there is a way of breathing that turns one's being into a conscious conduit between heaven and earth. This was not merely poetic imagery, but a precise method grounded in knowledge of the energetic meridians charted for centuries by imperial acupuncturists. The key lies in coordinating breath with visualization and intent. On the inhale, envision a current of golden, radiant energy descending from the boundless heights, entering through the crown of the head and flowing like celestial honey down the spine to the center of the chest where the heart resides. But here is the part written texts never fully disclose. At the very same time that heaven's energy is received, feel an earthly current, dense and nourishing, like the sap of an ancient tree, rising from the depths of the ground through the soles of the feet, ascending the legs until it meets the celestial energy in the heart. During the breath hold, visualize these two streams, uniting in the heart, forming a sphere of light that contains both the sky's brilliance and the earth's solidity. This union gives rise to what the ancients called the inner golden pill, the energetic core sustaining immortal life. On the exhale, allow this fused energy to radiate from the heart to every cell of the body, and also circulate it. Send part of the celestial current downward to nourish the internal organs and earthly roots, and raise part of the earthly current upward to feed mind and spirit. The practice sequence is as follows. Inhale slowly for 8 heartbeats, sensing heaven's descent and earth's ascent into the chest. Hold the breath for 4 beats, visualizing the fusion in the heart. Exhale for 8 beats, sending the merged energy through the whole being in a complete circuit. After 3 days training on that sacred mountain, something shifted in the understanding of existence. There was not only greater vitality and centeredness, but a palpable connection with the forces that move the universe. It was as if a passive observer of life had become an active participant in the "now you understand," my master said, noticing the change in my eyes. Why the ancient emperors sought counsel from Taoist sages before making weighty decisions. Whoever breathes with heaven and earth gains access to the wisdom of both. That night, as the stars shone with a sharpness I had never sensed before, I wrote in my journal, "The wise do not contend with the forces of the universe. They learn to flow with them. Conscious breathing is the key that opens this dance." Practice this method at dawn or dusk, when heaven's and earth's energies are in perfect transition, and it will become clear why the old masters said that one who masters this breath can read the secrets written on the wind. Chapter 3. The embryo's breath. It was the harshest winter I had seen in 70 years. Supplies ran low in our mountain temple. The cold cut to the bone, and several of the younger brothers fell gravely ill. Then the eldest master of our order, a man said to be over 120, though he looked scarcely 60, revealed to me the third ancestral secret. "Brother," he intoned, with a voice that seemed to rise from the earth's depths. "The time has come for you to know the breath that sustains life, even when the body seems at its limit." This knowledge, he explained, came directly from the classics, where it is said the perfected person breathes from the heels, but its true method had been preserved only through the oral lineages of masters who practiced inner alchemy in the caves of Hashan. For 1,000 years it passed from master to a single chosen disciple, for its power was deemed too perilous for the unprepared. The ancient Taoist physicians had observed something remarkable. In the mother's womb, the infant does not breathe with the lungs, but receives life directly through the umbilical cord. Its breathing is silent, deep, and utterly natural. No strain, no tension, only a steady, perfect flow of vital energy nourishing each forming cell. "This," said the elder as he placed his hand over my lower dantian, "is the breathing we must reclaim to attain the immortal's longevity. The technique he taught me that storm-tossed night would forever change my understanding of human breath. Embryonic breathing is not practiced from the lungs, but from the lower cinnabar field, that ocean of energy 3 finger widths below the navel the texts call the home of prenatal qi. The deepest secret is this: breathe as though a babe in the womb, each breath flowing naturally to the center of being without the need for air to fill the lungs. To do this, place one hand on the chest and the other on the belly. Throughout the practice, the hand on the chest must remain still, while the one on the belly moves gently like ocean swells. But here is what no written text can fully impart. Imagine breathing through a golden cord, stretching from the navel to the heart of the universe. With every inhalation, feel as if nourished directly by the primordial source of all existence. Without effort or conscious control, the breath should be so subtle that a feather beneath the nose would scarcely stir. The ancients said that when this art is mastered, one could breathe for a full hour on a single inhalation, for the prenatal qi stored in the lower dantian can sustain life for extraordinarily long spans. The sequence differs from the previous ones. Inhale very slowly, as if sipping celestial nectar through an invisible straw. Focusing all attention on the space 3 finger widths be, do not count beats or force rhythms. Simply allow the breath to flow toward the center like water seeking its natural level. Hold the breath naturally, without strain, as if immersed in the warm waters of the cosmic womb. During this pause, feel the qi gathering and multiplying in the dantian, spreading a gentle, nourishing warmth through the whole being. As the exhale begins, let it be so unhurried that the process takes at least twice as long as the inhale. Visualize the purified, multiplied qi distributing through all the internal organs, renewing every cell with vitality from the origin. We practiced for 7 consecutive days in that frozen cave. By week's end, something miraculous had happened. Neither the cold nor the lack of food diminished vitality. A sense of being fed from within emerged, as if an inner source of sustenance, forgotten since birth, had been rediscovered. "Now you see," said the elder master, "why the alchemical texts speak of returning to the deathless state of the child in the womb. It is no metaphor, but a precise art for accessing the prenatal qi that all possess yet few awaken." That experience revealed a profound truth written that night. In the beginning was breath, and this breath was one with life itself. Whoever rediscovers this primordial unity finds the elixir of immortality sought in vain in external furnaces. Practice this breath in times of weakness or illness, and the regenerative power dormant in the depths will stir, awaiting the one who knows how to return to the source of all existence. Chapter 4. The lungs, portals of spirit. The day an imperial court scholar arrived at the monastery will never be forgotten. A mind keen as polished steel, yet a spirit withered like a flower without water. His eyes, though bright, lacked that serene light known only to those who have found inner peace. He suffered from what he called melancholy of the soul, a deep sorrow no palace physician had managed to heal. "Master," he said with a fractured voice, "my mind has mastered every classic, yet my heart is empty like a broken cup." It was the perfect moment to teach the 4th ancestral secret, a method learned from the physician monks of the Shaolin Temple, handed down from the great healer Sun Simiao. This wisdom reached back to the classics where the lungs are said to house the Po, the corporeal soul. Yet the most guarded Taoist medical writings revealed something deeper. The lungs do more than process physical air. They serve as portals by which the human spirit can commune with subtler dimensions of the cosmos. The elders had long observed a direct correlation between the quality of breathing and the state of Shen, that spark of divine awareness dwelling in the heart. When the lungs are congested or the breathing shallow, Shen grows murky and agitated. But when the jade palaces, as the lungs were poetically called, are purified with intent, the spirit regains its original clarity. The method shared with the scholar was a cleansing of the lungs that not only refreshes the physical organs, but also opens energetic channels, allowing the soul to express itself more freely.
The practice rests on the understanding that with each inhalation comes not only oxygen, but also what the texts name pure celestial qi, a subtle energy that nourishes the spirit directly. The method begins with what the ancients called the white tiger breath, honoring the sacred animal governing the metal element and the lungs in traditional medicine. Stand upright, spine like a sacred mountain, and head touching the clouds.
But here is the key that transformed the scholar. On the inhale, do not focus on filling the lungs with air, but on drawing into them a golden, luminous mist descending from above. Envision this mist entering not only the alveoli, but also permeating the energetic meridians, carrying purity and lucidity into every inner recess. During the inhalation, lasting 6 heartbeats, imagine the lungs becoming 2 crystal spheres that capture and condense this golden light. Feel the bright mist dissolve any heaviness, sorrow, or confusion lodged in the chest. Hold for 3 beats as the golden light intensifies within those crystalline lungs, sending a glow toward the heart where Shen abides. In this moment, true purification occurs. The light cleanses not only the physical organs, but also stagnant emotions and clouded thoughts. On the 9-beat exhale, do not merely expel spent air. Visualize a stream of dark gray smoke leaving the lungs, bearing away impurities, worries, and negative energies that had dimmed the spirit. At the same time, sense the remaining golden light in the lungs spreading through the torso, creating a luminous, spacious interior. After only 3 days, the scholar underwent a shift he called the awakening of my soul from a long sleep. His face regained calm, his eyes shone with new life, and for the first time in years, a genuine smile returned. "Master," he said with renewed voice, "now it is clear why the ancients called breath the bridge between the visible and the invisible. My lungs have become windows through which the spirit can behold the vastness of the cosmos." I then explained the deepest wisdom of this practice. When the lungs are consciously purified, not only does physical health improve, but an inner space is created where the soul can expand and express its original, luminous nature. That night, a reflection was written in the journal that still endures. The lungs are the gardens of the spirit. When kept pure and spacious, the soul blooms like a lotus rising from murky waters into sunlight. Practice this breath each morning upon waking, when the qi is pure, and each night before sleep so the spirit may rest in a crystal temple. It becomes clear why the ancients said that one who purifies the lungs purifies destiny. Chapter 5. Exhale the poison, inhale life. It was the year a strange pestilence spread through the valleys near the monastery. Peasants arrived one after another, ashen-faced and weakened by toxins village doctors could not identify. Some spoke of fouled waters, others of noxious airs from the south. What was certain was the need for an urgent remedy. Then a technique of great power from the Taoist treasury was revealed, jealously guarded in the writings of the legendary alchemist Ge Hong. This wisdom rested on a fundamental principle recorded in the Taiping Jing, the classic of great peace. The human body can transmute poison into medicine when it knows the art of purifying breath. The ancients discovered an extraordinary capacity to expel toxins, not only through eliminative organs, but also via specific breathing methods that activate the so-called inner fire of purification. Observing animals, especially snakes, masters noted patterns used to neutralize ingested venoms. A method was developed combining breath, visualization, and healing sounds to cleanse the organism deeply. It was not merely about purging physical toxins, but also purifying emotional ones, which, according to the classics, can harm health as much as material poisons. The deepest principle learned from the master was this: each conscious exhale can become a vehicle of release, not only of carbon dioxide, but of all that does not belong to the original nature. For purification to be effective, intention, visualization, and a highly specific breathing pattern must be combined. The practice began with what the ancients called green dragon breathing, honoring the mythic creature of regeneration and transformation. Sit or stand upright, envisioning the body as a sacred temple to be cleansed of all accumulated impurities. The element that gives this method its true power is an internal, mindful scan before breathing begins. Bring attention to any area of heaviness, pain, tension, or discomfort. These are refuges where physical or emotional toxins have lodged. Inhale deeply and slowly for 5 heartbeats, with a twist. Direct the breath into the area most in need. Visualize a silvery white light, pure as dawn's dew, entering that place, encircling and dissolving any darkness or density. During a 3-beat hold, imagine the silver light intensifying and transforming toxins into pure energy, as the alchemical fire turns lead to gold. In the body, conscious breathing turns poison into vitality. Most crucially, the exhale must be forceful and paired with a specific tone. Exhale strongly for 7 beats, while sounding ha from deep in the throat. This vibration was said to aid in expelling impurities of the fire element, associated with the heart and emotional purification. As the sound is voiced and the breath leaves, envision a stream of black, gray, or yellowish smoke exiting, carrying away toxins, resentments, fears, and stagnation. Many disciples reported literally feeling something release within during this exhale. During the days of pestilence, this method was taught to all affected. After a week of daily practice, most had regained not only physical health, but a vitality not felt in years. One villager said, "Master, it feels as though I've been reborn from the inside out." The master then explained the core principle. The body is wise and naturally knows how to heal itself. Purifying breath simply awakens and directs that innate wisdom where it's most needed. That night it was written, "With every conscious exhale, a small act of inner alchemy occurs, turning what poisons into what strengthens." Practice this breath whenever exposure to any toxin, physical, emotional, or mental, is suspected. The ancients especially recommended it during seasonal transitions, when the body must adapt to new energies, and after conflicts or events that leave negative residues in the energetic field. A power of self-healing far greater than imagined will be discovered. Chapter 6. The Silence of Breath. During a 100-day retreat in the Jade Cave high in the Ime Mountains, what the ancients called the breathing of the immortals was first experienced. After 3 months alone, nourished only by wild herbs and spring water, changes began that defied logic. Breathing, once deliberate and controlled, became so subtle it at times seemed to stop altogether, as though a mode of being had been found that transcended ordinary respiratory exchange. This was not unknown in the tradition. The most guarded texts of the Shangqing school spoke of Taishi, supreme embryonic breathing, in which one learns to draw sustenance directly from primordial qi without relying on external air. This knowledge was traced to a lineage reaching back to the immortal Lu Dongbin, said in legend to have suspended breathing for months, sustained solely by the universal energy coursing through all beings. The Cantong Qi, China's oldest alchemical treatise, enigmatically notes that when inner and outer breath unite, the body transcends the limits of time. The cave retreat revealed this is not a technique to be forced or achieved by striving, but a natural state the body enters when certain conditions of inner purity and energetic harmony are met. It felt as though, after decades of practice, the body had remembered a more primal and efficient way to stay alive. The deepest secret revealed was that there is a breath even subtler than embryonic breathing, the breath of the void, where consciousness itself becomes the vehicle of vital nourishment. In this state, the lower dantian functions like an inner sun generating its own energy, making constant exchange with external air unnecessary. But here is what no text can fully teach. To enter this state, first master the art of micro-breathing. The technique begins with breaths so small and silent that even their movement cannot be detected. Sit in meditation with the spine upright, yet unstrained, like bamboo swaying softly in the breeze. Start with normal breaths, then gradually reduce both the depth and speed of each inhale and exhale until the motion becomes nearly imperceptible. The aim is not to hold the breath, but to find the perfect balance point where the body receives exactly the air it needs without any waste. It is like finding the perfect candle flame that neither flickers nor burns excess wax. During this practice, a moment will arrive when it seems breathing has ceased altogether. Yet in truth, a mode of respiration occurring directly at the cellular level has been accessed. The ancients called this breathing through the pores, where every skin cell participates in energetic exchange with the cosmos. In this silence of breath, a stillness arises so profound that the pulse of one's own blood can be heard, the whisper of the nervous system, and, if stillness is deep enough, even the sound of consciousness itself, expanding beyond the body's limits. During the 100 days in the cave, there were periods of hours sustained in this state. The body felt nourished from within, as if an internal source of sustenance had been found that did not depend on the outer world. It was the closest sensation to what must be the existence of the immortals. Upon returning from retreat, the master immediately noticed changes in the energy. "You have touched the threshold of immortality," he said with a smile that seemed to hold centuries of wisdom. Now it was clear why the ancients said the true alchemist needs no external furnaces to create the elixir of eternal life. He then explained that this experience was only the beginning of a deeper path. The most advanced masters could remain in a state of silent breathing for weeks or even months, their bodies staying in perfect health without visibly aging. That night, the journal recorded, "In the perfect quiet of breath, the soul remembers its immortal nature. When the struggle for life is released, life moves through with a grace beyond understanding. Practice micro-breathing in times of deep stillness, especially during night meditation, when outer energies are most calm. Do not try to force the state. Let the body guide into subtler levels of energetic exchange. It will become evident that within the silence of breath lies a doorway to dimensions of existence few mortals have explored." Chapter 7. The Breathing of Sacred Animals. During the years of training at the Monastery of 1,000 Cranes, the master taught something that would forever transform the understanding of natural breath. "Watch," he said one morning, pointing toward the lake where an ancestral turtle basked on a rock. "That creature is over 300 years old and still moves with the grace of eternal youth." It was true. The turtle breathed so slowly and deeply it seemed to be in constant meditation. Its inhalations were spaced, silent, and seemed to involve its entire being. The master explained that ancient sages had studied the breathing patterns of certain sacred animals for millennia, discovering within them the keys to extraordinary longevity. This wisdom was recorded in the oldest texts of Wudang Shan, where it is said the legendary physician Hua Tuo developed the 5 animal frolics precisely from observing how the crane, bear, monkey, tiger, and deer breathed. But the secret writing spoke of 3 animals whose breathing arts were considered supreme for cultivating immortality. Masters of inner alchemy identified that the turtle, the crane, and the dragon possessed respiratory patterns that activated different facets of human vital energy. Each had surpassed ordinary limits of time through specific ways of guiding qi with breath. The first technique learned was turtle breathing, the Taoist emblem of longevity. The master taught that turtles can live for centuries because they slow all vital processes through extraordinarily slow, deep respiration. The turtle's secret lies in its ability to hibernate for months, reducing metabolism to minimal levels while maintaining full vitality. The ancients discovered humans could emulate this process to profoundly regenerate vital energy and delay aging. To practice turtle breathing, imagine the body becoming as heavy and steady as a mountain. Sit upright without strain and begin breathing so slowly that each inhale lasts 12 heartbeats. The key is to imagine absorbing not just air, but the very essence of the Earth's longevity. Here is the secret that makes this breath truly potent. During the long inhalation, visualize a jade green light, like the shell of ancestral turtles, entering the body and concentrating in the kidneys. The ancients knew the kidneys store essential vitality, and the turtle teaches how to nourish them directly with breath. Hold the breath for 6 beats, feeling the green energy settle and solidify in the lower back. Then exhale for 12 beats, but without releasing the accumulated energy. Instead, allow it to spread slowly throughout the body like sap nourishing an ancient tree. The second breath to master is the cranes, the bird symbolizing timeless elegance and the bridge between earth and sky. Cranes can soar at great heights and live for decades while keeping youthful grace. Its breathing secret uses a rhythmic alternation that perfectly balances ascending and descending energies. For crane breathing, stand with arms slightly away from the sides as if about to take flight. Inhale for 8 beats while slowly raising the arms, imagining you are gathering pure chi from the celestial heights. At the top of the inhale, the arms are outstretched like wings, and the spirit feels lifted into the clouds. Exhale for 8 beats while lowering the arms, visualizing that energy is not lost but distributed from the captured celestial chi into every organ and cell. The ancients said mastery of this breath preserves flexibility and elegance well into advanced age. The third and most powerful is the dragon's breath, the mythic creature embodying the perfect synthesis of all natural forces. The dragon may not exist physically, yet the ancients understood it personifies how a being who has attained complete immortality would breathe. Dragon breathing blends power and fluidity in waves coursing along the entire spine. Inhale deeply, while envisioning a serpent of golden light rising from the base of the spine. During the exhale, visualize this luminous serpent descending along the front of the body, completing a full energy circuit known in the texts as the microcosmic orbit. After 3 months of practicing these 3 breaths in daily sequence, changes arose that astonished even the master. Energy stabilized at levels not felt since youth, flexibility improved markedly, and a stamina emerged that allowed hours of meditation without fatigue. "Now you understand," said the master, "why the ancients revered these animals as sacred teachers. Each preserves one facet of the secret of eternal life, and whoever learns from all 3 can blend stability, grace, and power in a single life." That night, reflecting on the received wisdom, this was written: "Nature is the sage's first university. In every creature that has achieved extraordinary longevity lives a manual of immortality. Practice these 3 breaths in sequence, devoting 10 minutes to each, preferably at dawn when natural energies are most active, and it will be discovered there is far more to learn from animals than ever imagined." Chapter 8. The Qi that circulates in the blood. Never had the master looked so concerned as on that winter night when he burst into the cell. "Come quickly," he urged. "Elder Li is dying, and the valley doctors can do nothing." Elder Li, the librarian of 80 years, had a heart beating irregularly and weakly, like a drum with loosened hide. At the bedside, the deathly pallor on his face and the frailty of his pulse were plain. It was the perfect moment for the master to transmit one of the tradition's most guarded methods, drawn directly from China's oldest medical writings. This wisdom was found in the Nanjing, the classic of difficult issues, which states, "The heart is the emperor of all organs, and when its qi is in harmony, the body's whole realm prospers." Yet the esoteric medical texts revealed even more. There existed a way of breathing that could synchronize the flow of qi with blood circulation itself, forging a harmony that powerfully strengthens the cardiovascular system. The ancients discerned that the heart is not merely a mechanical pump, but the energetic center distributing not only blood, but vital qi throughout the organism. When breathing is learned in perfect step with the heartbeat, this energy can be consciously guided to where it is most needed, revitalizing weak organs and restoring poor circulation. The master placed a hand over Elder Li's heart and asked that the irregular, halting beats be felt. "See how breath and heart are utterly out of step," he said, "like 2 musicians playing different tunes. Now learn to make them a single symphony." The method taught that night rested on a principle developed over centuries of observation. Every heartbeat is a chance to direct qi to any part requiring healing or strength. The deepest key is not to alter the heart's natural pace, but to attune breathing to it so each inhale and exhale enhances, rather than disrupts, energetic circulation. To begin, one hand is placed over the heart and the other over the abdomen. Eyes closed. For several minutes, simply observe the pulse without trying to change it, sensing each beat sending waves of energy from the chest's center through the whole body. Then comes the turn that makes observation into medicine. When fully tuned to the natural rhythm, inhale for exactly 4 heartbeats, visualizing golden light entering at the crown and descending straight to the heart. During these 4 beats of inhalation, imagine the heart becoming a miniature sun, absorbing this golden light and blending it with the blood it pumps. This is not mere metaphor. The ancients believed conscious intention can literally charge the blood with added vital energy. Hold the breath for 2 beats, feeling the golden light intensify within the heart to form a concentrated reserve ready to be sent forth. In this held moment, mentally direct the energy to any organ or area in need. Exhale for 6 beats, and here lies the crucial secret. Do not merely release air. Envision the golden light created in the heart, distributing through the circulatory system, following the blood's course to every cell of the body. With each beat during the exhale, picture waves of golden energy traveling through the main arteries, to the brain to nourish the mind, to the kidneys to fortify essential vitality, to the liver to purify the blood, to the lungs to renew breathing capacity. We practiced this method with Elder Lee throughout the night. At first his breathing was labored and his pulse erratic, but as his breath gradually aligned with his heartbeat, something extraordinary began. His pulse grew more regular, his color improved markedly, and for the first time in weeks he slept deeply. At dawn, he awoke with a vitality unseen for months. "It's as if I've rediscovered my heart," he said, smiling with radiant gratitude. "It beats with a new strength, like a young man's heart." The master then explained the deeper philosophy. The heart is the body's emperor, but like any good emperor, it needs wise ministers to govern. Conscious breathing becomes its prime minister, coordinating all vital processes for the well-being of the inner realm. In the weeks that followed, Elder Lee not only fully regained cardiovascular health, but developed stamina and vitality that amazed the entire monastery. He lived 15 more years, maintaining the daily practice of synchronizing breath and heart to the end. That experience taught a lesson later written down. When breath becomes the conductor of the body's orchestra, each organ finds its perfect rhythm in life's symphony. Practice this breathing especially when stress, fatigue, or any irregularity in vital energy is felt. The ancients advised using it upon waking to energize the day, and before sleep to deeply repair the body during the night's rest. It will be discovered that the heart contains wisdom far deeper than ever imagined. Chapter 9. The Breath That Masters Emotions. On a stormy night, a young warrior arrived at the monastery, face contorted by rage and a heart consumed by vengeance. His family had been lost in an ambush, and for months he had wandered the mountains feeding a hatred that devoured him from within. "Master!" he cried, voice broken by grief. "Teach me to fight better so I can destroy my enemies." Yet in his eyes lay something he himself could not see. It was not his outer foes destroying him, but the toxic emotions that had seized his inner being. It was the perfect moment to transmit one of the tradition's most transformative teachings, drawn from the oldest writings on emotional alchemy. This wisdom was encoded in the Neijing Suwen, which states that extreme emotions harm the internal organs more than any external disease. Anger injures the liver, grief the lungs, fear the kidneys, worry the spleen, and overexcitement the heart. Most crucially, specific breathing methods could transmute each destructive emotion into its corresponding virtue. The Taoist alchemists developed what they called the breath of emotional transmutation, grounded in the principle that emotions are forms of qi in motion and can therefore be redirected via appropriate breathing and visualization. The master had taught that sages do not suppress emotions, they consciously transform them into wisdom. "Anger," he said, "is pure yang energy. Misdirected it destroys, but properly channeled it becomes righteous determination. Fear is the body's wisdom alerting to danger, but when chronic, it paralyzes potential. Grief is the heart processing loss, but when stagnant, it decays into a depression that rots the soul." For 3 days, work with the young warrior focused on 5 breaths for emotional transformation, practices once used by imperial physicians to treat soldiers returning from battle with trauma. The first was the white tiger breath, to turn anger into serene resolve. When anger rises, qi surges violently in the liver and rushes to the head like toxic steam. Inhale deeply through the nose. visualizing drawing the hot red energy of anger from the liver. During the hold, envision a white tiger, symbol of metal and justice, devouring that red energy and transforming it into a cool silver light, representing calm, clear determination. Exhale through the mouth with a soft shoo sound as the silver light descends from the head to the heart, filling one with quiet, unwavering strength, like a wise judge unmoved by passions. The second was the red phoenix breath to transform grief into compassion. Stagnant sorrow resides in the lungs like a gray mist that constricts breath. Inhale slowly while imagining a golden phoenix entering through the crown and descending into the lungs, where its sacred fire evaporates the gray mist. During the hold, see the phoenix beating its wings within the chest, turning grief into warm, golden light, universal compassion. Exhale with the sound as this compassion spreads from the heart through the whole being and to all who suffer, transmuting personal pain into wisdom that can ease others' burdens. The third breath turned paralyzing fear into prudent caution, using the image of the black dragon governing water and the kidneys. Chronic fear weakens the kidneys and scatters vital energy like sand in the wind. The fourth transformed excessive worry into clear reflection via the yellow dragon breath, linked to earth and the spleen. Incessant rumination drains the spleen's chi and breeds circular thoughts without resolution. The fifth and most potent was the vermilion bird breath to transform manic overexcitement into balanced joy. When the heart is overstimulated, Shen grows erratic and discernment is lost. After a week of intensive practice, the young warrior experienced a metamorphosis he called the birth of a new man from the ashes of who he had been. The hard lines of anger left his face, his eyes regained clarity, and for the first time in months, he smiled with genuine inner peace. "Master," he said calmly, "now it's clear the real battle wasn't outside, but within my own heart. These techniques grant a power no external weapon can match, the power to turn poison into medicine." The deeper philosophy of these practices was then explained. Emotions are like rivers of energy that flow through our being. When they move freely, they turn into virtues that strengthen us. But when they stagnate or overflow, they create the suffering we believe comes from outside. The young warrior chose to remain in our monastery and devote his life to studying these methods. Over time, he became one of the most compassionate teachers I have known, able to help others turn their own emotional storms into wisdom. Years later, when he was already a respected elder, he confided in me. Those 5 breaths saved me not only from my outer enemies, but from the most dangerous foe of all, the one I carried within my own mind. That experience taught me a truth I recorded that very night. The true master is not the one who never feels intense emotions, but the one who has learned to consciously transform them into the virtues the world needs. Practice these breaths, especially when any emotion seems poised to overtake you. The ancients said that whoever masters their own emotions becomes the emperor of their destiny, and whoever turns them into virtues becomes a benefactor to the entire world. Chapter 10. Breathing light into the heart. I vividly remember the day a young nun arrived at our temple with a request that utterly unsettled me. "Master," she said to me with tears in her eyes, "I have dedicated 20 years to meditation and the study of the sutras. Yet my heart remains as dark as a moonless night. Others speak of sensing inner light, of feeling universal love, but I find only emptiness and coldness. Is my soul condemned to eternal darkness?" Her words moved me deeply, because I recognized in her a suffering I had faced myself during my early years of spiritual practice. I had been cultivating the mind, but had forgotten to nourish the heart, the true palace where enlightenment resides, according to the oldest teachings of our tradition. This wisdom came from the most secret texts of the school of supreme purity, where it was taught that the human heart possesses 3 invisible chambers. The chamber of worldly wisdom, the chamber of universal compassion, and the deepest chamber where the original Shen dwells, that spark of divine awareness that links the human being to the primordial Tao. The masters of inner alchemy had discovered a specific way of breathing that could progressively activate these 3 chambers of the heart, awakening levels of consciousness that most practitioners never reach. This technique was cryptically mentioned in the secret book of the Golden Dragon, which said, "Whoever learns to breathe light directly into the heart becomes a sun that illuminates thousands." My own teacher had passed this practice to me only after 15 years of preparation, warning that it was one of the most powerful yet delicate techniques in the Taoist arsenal. If you are not prepared inwardly, he told me, the light you awaken can blind you rather than illuminate you. The heart must be purified gradually, like polishing a mirror, with endless patience and absolute reverence. For 3 months I worked with the young nun, guiding her step by step through the stages of what the ancients called the lotus of light breath, so named because the illuminated heart opens like a lotus blossoming from the depths of the mud toward the luminous surface of the pond of awareness. The first stage was learning to breathe directly into the center of the chest, not into the lungs, but into the energetic space the ancients called the Crimson Palace. For this, the nun was to place both hands over her heart and visualize a small empty chamber at the exact center of her chest, like the hollow within a sacred bell awaiting the strike. With each inhalation, she was to imagine a drop of liquid light, golden like heavenly honey, descending from the infinite and falling straight into this heart chamber. Not air, not abstract energy, but pure, tangible light that slowly began to accumulate within it like water filling a cup. But here lies the secret that turns this visualization into a true experience of transformation of consciousness. During the breath retention, the nun had to focus intently on feeling how this drop of light began to expand within her heart, creating a sensation of gentle warmth and luminosity that gradually grew more intense and palpable. The key was not to force the experience, but to allow it to unfold naturally, like dawn arriving gradually, unhurried, yet unceasing. At first, the sensation was subtle, barely noticeable, but with daily practice it became increasingly concrete and transformative. During the exhalation, instead of releasing this light, she was to imagine it expanding from the heart through her entire torso, forming a sphere of radiance that wrapped all her internal organs with warmth and peace. The ancients taught that when this light stabilizes in the heart, it begins automatically to purify every aspect of the person: thoughts, emotions, perceptions, and even nightly. The second stage we introduced after 6 weeks of steady practice involved consciously extending this heart light to specific areas needing healing or transformation. If the mind was restless, the light was directed to the head. If emotions were turbulent, it was sent to the solar plexus. If vital energy felt faint, it was guided down to the lower dantian. But the third stage was the most remarkable and life-changing, learning to radiate this heart light toward other beings. The secret texts taught that when the heart becomes a stable source of inner light, it naturally benefits everyone who comes into contact with that person, like a lamp that illuminates everything around it effortlessly. To work on this stage, the nun would sit in meditation and imagine the light gathered in her heart beginning to shine in every direction, like golden rays extending beyond her physical body, first to nearby plants and animals, then to the people in the surroundings, next to her hometown, and finally to all sentient beings in the universe. The old masters discovered that this practice not only changed the practitioner profoundly, but also generated an energetic field of compassion and wisdom, with tangible positive effects on the environment. It was like becoming a beacon of light in a world where many walk in darkness. After 3 months of devoted practice, the young nun's transformation was so evident that other monks came to ask which method she had learned. Her face radiated a luminous calm she had not possessed before. Her words carried a weight of compassionate wisdom that deeply moved those who listened, and her mere presence had a calming effect on conflicts and tensions within the monastery. "Master," she told me one evening as we watched the sunset, "now I understand why the ancients said the heart is the true mind. Since it began to fill with light, not only do I see the world differently, but the world itself seems to respond to my presence with greater harmony and beauty." I then explained the deepest mystery of this practice. When the individual heart becomes a lamp of pure awareness, it connects directly with the universal heart that beats at the center of all creation. That is why inner transformation is automatically mirrored by outer changes. The nun continued to deepen this practice for decades, and in time became one of the most respected teachers of our lineage. People came from far and wide to receive her guidance, less for her words than for the naturally radiant peace she emanated. Years later, when she was an elder venerated for her wisdom, she confided in me, That technique of breathing light into the heart not only reshaped my spiritual path, it taught me that within we carry an inexhaustible source of happiness and compassion that can illuminate both our own life and the lives of all beings we touch. That experience taught me a truth I wrote in my journal that night. The enlightened heart does not search for light in distant places. It becomes itself the source of all brightness. When we learn to breathe light directly into our innermost center, we discover that we are living beacons in an ocean of infinite possibilities. Practice this breathing especially during silent meditation, when outer distractions are minimal and full focus can rest on the inner process. The masters advise doing it at dawn, when the day's first light naturally stirs the inner radiance, and at dusk, when the heart is most receptive to tranquil contemplation. Then one discovers access to an inner light that never runs dry and grows brighter each day. It is tended with loving dedication. Chapter 11. Suspending Time Within the Breath. It was during a 1,000-day retreat in the sacred cave on Mount Chinchin that an experience first arose which would forever challenge my understanding of time and human existence. I had been practicing in absolute solitude for more than 2 years, surviving on wild herbs and spring water, when my body began to show changes that seemed impossible by ordinary logic. My hair, which had started to gray before the retreat, gradually regained its original black color. The wrinkles on my face softened until they nearly vanished. Most astonishing of all, my bodily processes appeared to have slowed dramatically. My pulse beat so slowly that long seconds sometimes passed between one heartbeat and the next. My digestion could process a single meal for days, and my breathing had become so subtle that I could remain in apparent apnea for hours without the slightest discomfort. This transformation was not accidental, but the result of practicing the most advanced and secret technique of the entire Taoist tradition, knowledge traced back to the legendary immortals of Zan, who, according to the oldest texts, managed to halt aging completely by absolute mastery of the internal temporal rhythms. This wisdom was encoded in the most esoteric writings of the Taisang Ganing Pian, where it is enigmatically stated that whoever learns to dwell in the eternal interval between the in-breath and the out-breath discovers that the ordinary laws governing life and death have been transcended. The alchemical adepts had grasped something modern science is only beginning to glimpse. Time is not a uniform stream flowing independently of awareness. It is intimately bound to the body's biological and energetic rhythms. When these rhythms are deliberately slowed through specific methods, the subjective experience of time shifts radically, and with it the processes of aging and bodily decline. My own teacher had warned that this method should be attempted only after decades of preparation, for it involves entering states of such depth that there is a risk of being unable to return to ordinary awareness. It is the practice of those preparing for immortality, he told me solemnly, but also the most perilous threshold a practitioner can cross. For one who ventures too far into eternity may lose forever the connection with the world of mortals. The method known in the hidden texts as the breath of primordial emptiness was based on the principle that there is a timeless space between every inhalation and exhalation where awareness can take refuge and perceive reality from a vantage that completely surpasses the ordinary temporal dimension. To enter this state, it was first necessary to fully master the extension of each respiratory phase to limits that seemed impossible. I began by inhaling for 30 heartbeats, placing attention not on the air entering, but on the empty space within the lungs before the air arrived. It was as if I were breathing the void itself rather than oxygen. But here is the secret that turns this practice into a gateway to temporal transcendence. During the breath retention, which I gradually extended to 100 heartbeats or more, I did not focus on holding air in, but on immersing awareness entirely in the silent, empty space that exists between every thought, between every beat, between every moment. In that space, something extraordinary began to unfold. The ordinary sense of time faded away completely. Minutes could stretch into eternities, or hours could pass like instants. It felt as though a parallel dimension had been found where the temporal laws governing the physical world simply did not apply. The old texts described this state as entering the palace of the Emperor of Time, where the practitioner could literally negotiate with the forces governing aging and death. This was not poetic metaphor, but a precise depiction of a state in which ordinary biological processes are temporarily suspended, allowing the body to regenerate in ways that defy conventional medical understanding. During the exhalation, which I extended to 50 beats, I visualized that I was not expelling air, but releasing every trace of chronological time from my system. With each out-breath, it felt as if years of accumulated wear, decades of cellular fatigue, and centuries of temporal karma were being purged unnoticed. After months of steady training, I managed to remain in this condition for stretches that outwardly lasted hours, but inwardly were experienced as aeons of infinite peace or as instantaneous flashes of compressed et. It felt as though complete exit from the ordinary temporal stream had been learned, taking refuge in a dimension where only the eternal present exists. The physical effects of this practice were undeniable. The body had not only ceased aging, it seemed to be actively rejuvenating. Old wounds healed entirely, chronic pains vanished, and a physical resilience developed that had not been present even in youth. It was as if a way had been found to continually reset the inner biological clock, yet the deepest effect was on the perception of existence itself. When it becomes possible to experience directly that time is a mental construct rather than an absolute reality, one's relationship with life, death, and suffering is transformed at the root. Problems that once felt urgent and important reveal themselves as temporal ripples on an ocean of changeless eternity. During one of these deep states, a vision arose that forever altered the understanding of immortality. It became clear that every human carries within a core of awareness that exists completely outside time, and that advanced breathing methods do not create immortality. They simply lift the veils that prevent recognition of one's ever-present nature. Upon finally returning from the 1,000-day retreat, other masters at the monastery were astonished at the appearance. Entry had been as a 50-year-old with clear signs of aging, but the return was with the physical aspect of someone of 30 and a vitality radiating from every cell. "What secret did you uncover in that cave?" they asked, with curiosity and reverence. It was explained that something spoken of in the alchemical texts had been learned, though few ever experienced it directly. Immortality is not found in the future, but in the eternal present that exists between each breath. One of the eldest masters said, "Now you understand why the true immortals never die, yet do not remain forever in the world. They have learned to exist both within and beyond time, appearing when their wisdom is needed and vanishing when their presence is no longer required." That experience taught the deepest truth recorded in the journal. Time is the jailer that imprisons the immortal spirit. But whoever learns to breathe in the eternal space between one moment and the next discovers the keys to freedom have always been in one's own hands. A warning must be given that this practice should not be attempted without the guidance of an experienced master, and only after full mastery of all previous breathing techniques. The risks are real. There have been practitioners who lost themselves in these timeless dimensions and never fully returned to ordinary awareness. Yet for those genuinely prepared to explore the furthest limits of human existence, this method offers the possibility of touching directly the source of eternal life, which the ancients promised to those with the courage to transcend completely the limits of ordinary mortal experience. Begin practicing only for brief periods, always with absolute respect for the forces being invoked. And remember, the true aim is not to escape time, but to find within it the eternity that has always been present. Chapter 12. The Final Secret, the Ultimate Union of Body and Spirit. The threshold has been reached where few mortals have dared to step. 11 sacred breaths have been learned, yet there exists a 12th, the ancient masters called Tai Yi Shishi, the breath of great unity. This method was not hidden out of malice, but out of compassion, for whoever masters it transcends the confines of human form. In the snowy mountains of Kunlun, more than 3,000 years ago, the Yellow Emperor Huangdi received this knowledge directly from the celestial master. It is said that after practicing it for 100 days, his body became so subtle that he could walk among the clouds. Some say he never died, that he still wanders the mountains awaiting worthy disciples. But heed this warning well. Whoever attempts this practice without having fully purified the heart of worldly desires risks becoming forever lost between worlds. The power to permanently unite spirit with breath is so vast, it can uproot the soul from the body if one is not prepared. The method is called Hun Yuan Yiki, return to the primordial breath. It is the art of breathing as the universe breathed before the stars were born, when all was one within the sacred void. The master who taught this practice had lived 200 years. A face without wrinkles, eyes as deep as wells of timeless wisdom. "Disciple," he told me that night under the full moon, "what I am about to teach is not just another method. It is the key that opens the gate between heaven and earth within your own being. When this breath is mastered, you will no longer be entirely human, yet neither will you be an you will be something in between, a living bridge between two worlds. The secret lies in breathing without breathing, in becoming the empty space where air moves in and out on its own. It is the breath of the Tao itself flowing through mortal form. But the true mystery is not in the method. It is in the total surrender it demands. Sit in perfect lotus, as if the spine were the invisible axis linking heaven to the depths of the earth. Place the hands in a mudra of deep meditation, the right thumb touching the base of the left ring finger. Close the eyes and find the exact point between the brows where the third eye resides. Now comes the impossible. One must breathe without using the lungs. Instead of inhaling air, inhale space itself. Feel the whole body becoming a vast, empty vessel. There is no distinction between the air within and without. The chest no longer expands or contracts. There is only a subtle pulse, like the silent beat of the universe's heart. In this condition, time stops, and the boundaries between the body and the cosmos dissolve. Awareness seems to widen to encompass mountains, oceans, stars. You are no longer who you were. You are the very breathing of existence. But here is the danger. Some never return from this state. They become lost in the immensity, their bodies empty like abandoned shells. Therefore, before attempting this supreme practice, perfect detachment must be cultivated. Be willing to let everything go, even the wish to live or die. The Master warned, practice this only when it feels you no longer belong to yourself, when every cell of the being vibrates with impersonal love for all existence. For at the moment of the great union, the small self disappears forever. According to the manuscript, the few who mastered this final breath developed powers that defied natural law. They could heal with a glance, transmit wisdom with a sigh, and their words carried the force to awaken instant enlightenment in prepared hearts. Yet the greatest of all powers was absolute freedom. Freedom from illness, from aging, from fear, from death itself. Not because they became immortal, but because they transcended the illusion of being separate individuals. They became conscious expressions of the universal life force. If the choice is to walk this ultimate path, do so with the humility of one who casts oneself into the infinite ocean. First, practice the 11 breaths for years, until the body is so pure it can withstand the divine voltage of the great union. And when the call finally comes to take the last step, do it as one who gives oneself completely to the sacred mystery of existing. The manuscript ends with these words written in golden characters. The greatest secret is not a method, but the love that moves one to share these gifts with a suffering world. Breathe not only for liberation, but so that the breath becomes medicine for all beings.